back to the Who's Yanks. We have new at the Who's Yanks. We talk using Canada soccer and U.S. soccer. Today, this morning, we're actually talking about the overnight game that finished up between Canada and Australia, where Canada wins 1-0 by way of Adriana Leon, where her phenomenal goal gave Canada the win over the Matildas, but we'll talk more about her goal in detail later on. For this one, we're going to do the starting lineup first. And so for this one, Canada started by playing Kristen Sinclair, the GOAT, one of the all-time legends of Canada soccer, has to play her. Sheridan, Zadorsky, Grosso, Heidema, Prince, Becky, Fleming, Leon, the goal scorer, St. George's, and Yeka. So Yeka in here, a few new names I was curious to seeing. And I got some answers in terms of the question I had. And so I remember that I'm going to talk about that later on, but the question I had and the observation I wanted to see was the Canadian offense. How well is this Canadian offense? Can they break down opponents like the U.S., Australia, quality opponents? Can they do so? And I got some answers that kind of answer that question that I kind of propose, if I could say that right, against the lineup reaction. And so, another thing about this game too is it was also part of getting the Australian World Cup experience, right? Playing against a quality team like caliber of Australia on Australian soil too. So on the World Cup next year, 2023 World Cup in New Zealand as well, this is the kind of teams they're going to be facing on this kind of soil. So it kind of helps that they're getting used to playing these kind of teams, and it makes a big difference. So hopefully that they take away from this game and the next game that they get used to playing a little bit down in Australia, down under, and preparation, and they can know what to expect for the kind of not only the caliber of teams, but as well as the kind of turf or grass that they're going to be playing on as well down in Australia. So this game and the next game is also going to help build that, which is also good. You don't want to play all your games on your own home soil because you don't get the experience. So this is why also the U.S. did that back last year, I believe, when they played Australia, or maybe even earlier this year. But that's exactly why the U.S. played Australia in Australia, and that's why, because the U.S. wanted to, just like Canada, wanted to get experience playing on Australia against a quality opponent on Australian soil in preparation for the World Cup. So that's exactly why they did that. So Canada's following suit. And so overall, this game, as I said, only had one goal. We'll talk about the one goal, we'll talk about it, and then we'll get into the stats, and then we'll talk about the kind of observations that I noticed during the game. So in the 11th minute, it was Jordyn Huitema has the ball at the top of the box. She cuts it into Adriana Leon, who gets it on and just fires a massive cracker into the top left corner. There's nothing the Australian keeper can do about it. Lydia Williams is just stunned. She tries, and the dive is just for show, honestly. But it's a nothing you can do about it for her. But Adriana Leon with a firecracker to give Canada and Le Rouge the 1-0 lead. And it's a fantastic start for Canada, especially against Australia and a quality opponent like Australia's caliber. And as I said, it was an unstoppable shot, unfortunately, for Lydia Williams in Australia, but that was just a good shot from Adriana Leon. She just took it, and that ball flew. And as I said, it was a firecracker for sure. And it turned out to also be the lone goal of the match for Canada and the game winner. So with that, let's go and see how they did in the stats, as this was a fairly even game. Canada and Australia traded blows, as I'm going to talk about too, but it was Canada coming out with the goal and the win. So we go 16 shots for Australia to 13 shots for Canada, 7 shots on target to the 16, while 5 of the 13 were on target for Canada. Australia was really, really testing this Canadian defense, and they hold to their credit, which I'll talk about later. 52% possession, 48% possession, fairly even. 463 passes completed to 448 passes completed, once again fairly even. 79% pass accuracy to 78% pass accuracy. 9 fouls to 13 fouls. 3 yellow cards for Australia, none for Canada. No red cards in this game. 1 offside to 4, and 5 corners to 2 in this game for Australia. As I said, really, really credit the Canadian defense, as they held strong. I mean, as I said, how about the Canadian defenses? Especially Sheridan. She came up with some massive, massive saves when Canada really needed them to keep Canada on the win sheet, and to keep Australia, I should say, off the score sheet, and to deny them from tying. So that's a massive, massive win, and a massive, massive great game from Kylene Sheridan. And as I said, Sam Kerr, especially in the end, she huffed, puffed, and just couldn't blow that Canadian defense down. I mean, she had shot after shot after shot. If it wasn't saved, it was nicked wide. And it was just, Sam Kerr did all she did. She just kept threatening. She was a real menace for that Canadian defense. But as I said, credit the Canadian defense to not break down and let her score, as they held strong and ended up getting rewarded with a win. And as I said, especially in the end, Australia just threw everything they had. They threw the kitchen sink at the Canadian defense, and once again, Kylene Sheridan, along with the back line of the Canadian defense, held strong and did not let up. And as a result, they got out of Brisbane with the win. So on to Sydney, I believe now, and that's going to be the next game. Hopefully, if the Canadian defense can continue to hold. But at the same time, kind of segueing into my next big question I had about this game and the next game, they're going to need some help from this Canadian offense. And the midfield looked okay. The midfield actually ran the ball, they facilitated the ball. But the Canadian offense just had, once again, just like the U.S. game, they had tons of chances, or if not tons, a handful of chances that should have resulted in a goal or at least a shot on target. As the Canadian offense just really, really couldn't find one to go. I mean, other than Adriana Leon's shot, but Canada had the Canadian offense at times had a lot of chances where they were inside the box, but just couldn't steer the ball on target. And then again, some of those was credit to the Australian defense for making it difficult for the Canadian defense to really break them down, as well as even the keeper. Lydia Williams also had some massive, massive saves to deny Canada off the score sheet from really locking the game away. But there was one chance that should have, could have, would have, but it didn't end up in the back of the net for Canada, and that was at the end where it was Chloe Lacasse, or Chloe Lacasse, I was saying her name wrong all day, but the announcer said Lacasse. So Chloe Lacasse was literally, she was one-on-one with the keeper. She beats the keeper, Lydia Williams, and goes to the left. Lydia Williams is beat. All she has to do is just roll it in, keep it low, settle herself, and it could have been a 2-0 win, and the game could have been over like that. But what does Lacasse do instead? She beats the keeper, so she does all the hard work, but skies the ball way, way, way over the net. And even the announcer was like, whoa, that should have been 2. And yeah, I agree. I mean, you do the hard part. You beat the keeper, and typically when you round the keeper like that, you got to put the ball in the back of the net. There's no and ifs, buts about it. You got to put that ball in the back of the net. You do the hard part. You beat the keeper. The keeper is chasing you and the ball. All you got to do is steer the ball on frame, but she was just off balance. Lacasse was just off balance and just hammered this one over the net and just didn't need to. It was like what someone said, what's with all the power? Just go for placement. If Lydia Williams recovers and gets a great save, then she recovers and gets a great save. But you at least got to put the ball on the net if you're Chloe Lacasse. I mean, there's no excuse for that. You have to put the ball, you have to steer the ball on net. And hopefully she's going to look at this one and really want to get this one back. And maybe she's going to improve coming the game on Sydney in a couple of days. So, but yeah, that should have been 2-0 Canada right there. If none of the other chances would have gone in the back of the net, that chance alone should have been in the back of the net for the Canadian offense. But as I said, some of those credit the Matilda defense for just taking away the opportunities and making it more difficult. But yeah, just kind of the last thing. So in regards to my question I had about this Canadian offense going on during the earlier roster reaction, as I said, could Canada really improve and could they really get things together? This game, it was tough because, as I said, they left too many chances left on the table, and you can't do that come World Cup time because teams, they're lucky that Australia just couldn't break down the door today, but teams like that in the World Cup caliber, like even France, Sweden, and even sometimes the U.S., they're going to punish you if you can't convert your chances. Canada's already seen that firsthand in the CONCACAF Championship. They played against the U.S., same thing. They left chances on the table left and right, and when the time came, USA had the penalty, USA capitalized, and Canada still couldn't score. So we've seen this before, and yes, they got the 1-0 win, but I'm saying that the Canadian offense can be so much better, and it's there. The chances are there. Canada just has to settle down, find the chances, be patient, and beat the keeper. But obviously it's easier said than done, but it's just from my observation, this is the second game that I've seen, just like the U.S. game, where Canada has chances. Except this time they win, but unlike the USA, they didn't lose, but they won 1-0. But I mean, still, it could have been more. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, didn't. Let's see if they'll take these chances, these missed opportunities that they left on the table to really improve and go into the next game in Sydney and maybe perhaps score some more goals. But yeah, but overall, that's my only concern or my only observation that really was kind of saying that they need to do better, some must do better on, is that just you gotta find more chances and you gotta put more balls in the back of the net here on the Canadian offense. The defense is stout. Defense can hold. The defense, as we saw, held even when Australia threw the kitchen sink and everything they had at them. The midfield did decent and did pretty well at facilitating and orchestrating the ball and even trying to create the Canadian attacks and chances. But when it came to the attacking end, Canada still just struggles to put the ball in the back of the net, inside the box especially. Even with Australia's Lydia Williams having some good saves, Canada just struggles to put the ball in the box, put the ball in the back of the net. And as I said, another game, South Korea when they played, same thing. It was 0-0. Canada had the bulk of opportunities, bulk of chances, just couldn't put it in the back of the net. And that, you can use that game as an example. You can use the U.S. game as an example. You can also use this game as an example. Canada has to improve, and we'll see what they can do. We'll see what they can clean up going into this next game in Sydney and a few games. I believe September the 7th is the next game, and I believe that's another early morning game. I believe this time it's going to be at like 5:45 maybe. I might be wrong, but it's going to be early in the morning if you're willing to get up for that. If you're in Canada, as I said, that reaction's not coming till later. For me, it's probably not going to come that night because I've got other things I got to do. That's a busy day, especially university is starting back up. But that reaction is going to come later. But nonetheless, this game for Australia and Canada, it was a great balanced game. As I said, the only thing I really want to see Canada improve on is that creating offensive attacks, which they did so better, but they just got to finish them. They got to put them in the back of the net. And we'll see if they can do that come Australia, as I said, in Sydney. But that's all I pretty much have to say for this game. We'll see if Canada can turn the corner in terms of creating offensive chances. Beth Priestman's going to definitely do something. She's going to make some changes. And we'll see. We might see some new names and faces in that next lineup in the next game. So we just got to keep an eye on. But for this game, that pretty much does it. Canada does get the 1-0 win. And it is a balanced game, but Canada walks away with a 1-0 win. And overall, pretty balanced game. We'll see if Australia can continue to test Canada and really ask some questions of that offensive line for Canada. Really ask questions and really test them and defensively. So, great job from the Matildas last night, and great job from Canada, the defense and midfield especially. Outstanding job. But the Canadian offense, they did well, but they can always be better. But for that video, if you like this video, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends about it. By the way, I hope you guys like the new intro in this video that I added a couple days ago. I just tested it out, so let me know in the comments or in the, just let me know what you think of the intro. And yeah, just first intro, and it was overdue, guys. First intro is coming for this video, and hopefully I'm gonna render it, and we'll see if it makes sense, and hopefully it turns out well, and hopefully you guys like that as well. But yeah, like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about it, share the video, comment, bell notification. You guys know what to do. Subscribe if you like it, and tell all your friends. The Matildas put up a pretty good fight against the Canadians in terms of asking the offensive questions for this Canadian offense. We'll see what they can do in Sydney.